Guys, welcome to the Screen Team. My name is Chris. I'll be hosting this review show for you this evening. I'm being joined by Sue with the Poplar Bluff Public Library. Sue, it's so good to have you on the show again.
As you know, Chris, I've always enjoyed this, and I said you give me a lot of pleasure allowing me to do this.
It's fun. We get to do a lot of movies, and you always pick a lot of movies that either I haven't seen in a long time or I haven't seen at all. So I'm excited about this next show. And you wanted, very early on, you wanted to do a theme show that kind of showed what our veterans go through.
That's right.
Is that right? Because, you know, it is Veterans Day today, and we wanted to do a theme show to kind of see, you know, not what they go through, not only during wartime, but before they go to war and what happens after they come to war as well.
That is correct. And Chris, I hope you will allow me to say that I want to do this in memory of those who have lost their lives for our country and honor my family who served their nation. And that includes my grandfather, my father, and my husband.
Very good. Well, our first movie today is a movie that it's pretty hard to handle. It's a classic, obviously. It's called Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Martin Sheen and Marlon Brando. And Sue, what are your thoughts about this film?
Well, my personal thoughts were, as I was watching it, I first need to say that it is somewhat based in a book by Joseph Conrad. And Joseph Conrad told a story called The Heart of Darkness.
Okay.
And The Heart of Darkness was a story written in 1899. Mm-hmm. And what it was, this guy was making a trip down the Congo and making this trip down the river. And as he approaches the person who is there at the end of the journey, and he talks about his loss of humanity as he suffers lots of deprivation in this. Well, in my feeling, yes, I see where it is, and even at the end, we do have Marlon Brando say, you know, the heart of darkness, and gives away the line there. Yeah. But my feeling was, I felt like I was reading or I was experiencing Dante's Inferno. Each time, as the river, as they're traveling down, to me, is like the river Styx. And as we go each leg of the journey, it's a further descent into hell until we finally hit the bottom at the end of the journey. And it is a descent into hell. But I would like to quote William Tecumseh Sherman, who said, "War is hell." And I think that's what this film tells us, is what our soldiers lost, and not only their lives, but maybe their own humanity as they went through. So these are kind of deep topics and deep subjects that are covered throughout. And sterling performances by all actors. We have Marlon Brando, and Marlon Brando probably has one of the smallest parts of this film. But keep in mind the number of awards that were in the nominations this film received. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, and that was Robert Duvall. Best Writing, Best Art Direction, Best Film Editing. That's a pretty impressive list. And won Best Sound and Best Cinematography. Now, I can't tell you who won all of these other things, but I always like Roger Ebert. And Roger Ebert says that at the time this film was released, people thought it was... they thought it was just contrived, that it was just put it. Ebert said in 1979, that this film would become to be known later as one of the best films ever done, and he was correct.
A lot of people feel that way. You know, you got Francis Ford Coppola directing The Godfather and The Godfather 2, and a lot of people think that this movie is better than those films.
I know, and those are tough films too, as well. Yeah. So he didn't go away from it, but it does achieve greatness, and the film but it also, there's these moments of I don't know what you would call a glory. I don't know if that's right, but if you watch it, there's a scene of the helicopters coming in, and they're playing in the loudspeaker "The Ride of the Valkyries," which is one of Wagner's pieces. And the reason that Robert Duvall is playing this as in the character that he plays is he says the sound scares the natives as they're coming in, and they're basically getting ready to attack this particular village in a particular area for what I would call a nonsensical reason, and I won't give you the nonsensical reason. But at the same time, it shows you the macabre of film. The film shows the macabre of the war, and it shows that how far these people fall into a deprivation of character in order to survive. And I think there are other films about Vietnam that show this as well.
Yeah.
But this is one that really just goes out there and just strikes at the heart. And it's the heart of darkness.
Man, I got to see this film again. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, it's a good film. But the way Sue's describing this, I'm like, oh, my goodness. I've missed so much, man.
Well, I don't know that you missed it. And you have to understand that over the years, I've read a lot of books about war, and I've read a lot of things. I read Ulysses S. Grant's memoirs, and so you get a sense of what war was like. And there is no picture of war that you can see that doesn't mirror what we see in Apocalypse Now. So Apocalypse Now is not anything new in what war is, but I think because of media, because of the ability to give the public access to those images that we didn't have in an immediacy with even World War II and Korea and World War I and so on. So as a result, I think it became more real to people. I mean, much like other things that are happening even now.
Yeah.
So and you can't look at what's going on in the world. You can't look at things in the Middle East. You can't look at things in Afghanistan. You can't look at and not realize that war is destructive. And it's not destructive of just lives, but it's destructive of humanity.
It's very true. The movie's called Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Sheen, Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando. I love the smell of reviews in the evening, and Sue and I have got more coming your way next right here on the Screen Team.